Oh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Prince Petty channel, owned by Prince Petty, produced by Prince Petty, edited by Prince Petty, 100% real, all day, all night. We also have a special guest. Rizzy Ann is here today. Rizzy Ann. Thank you for joining me and for hopefully providing what I think would be an academic perspective on the color purple, because my GED is working hard. It's in overtime, so I need somebody with a institutional education to weigh in. Um, and I would prefer that be a black woman, of course. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, so let's start with my. Actually, before we start with the intro, let's get some of the mess out of the way, and then we'll separate it with the intro. Welcome everyone in the chat, by the way. Shania is excited. I'm glad. No, I'm not gonna make y'all wait. I did put on my tea, so it is steeping. We got about 2.5 more minutes of steeping that tea, and we're gonna be good to go. We're gonna be good to go. Hello, Miss Audio Noble B. Welcome everybody in the chat. This video is not going to be privated. The other one was, because that was just like some brainstorming and back and forth, and then FD joined, and people wanted that to be a spectacle, which it is not. So that's never coming out. Say goodbye to it. Make your amends, and you can jump in anytime. By the way, you don't have to let me talk. But
You love to talk.
speaking of someone who loves to talk, Amani talks. I just wanted to touch on last night's podcast. Um, Over on Themis and Thoth on the It Gab podcast. I know y'all were saying that her podcast name, one thing about it is like so much better, and y'all hate that ours is It Gab and it don't make sense and it sounds stupid. Who's Prince Petty again? Anyway, yeah, so I did hear that. I did hear y'all say the podcast name is stupid and hers is better. I have no authority to fix that. Y'all need to go and talk to Themis. But I did enjoy our conversation last night. I do disagree with her ideas, but I hope you guys remain respectful over in those comments. Although I know you guys over here would never be petty. We're not petty people. We don't do petty things over on the Prince Petty channel. So I know that's not you guys, but I'm just saying. Did enjoy that, and I do think you guys should watch the replay if you haven't already. So now that that's out of the way, I also wanted to clear up something because some people were upset in one of my videos because they said I was kind of coming at Christianity, and I was taking TD Jakes. Obviously, he has a thing where he says swallowed up. And they were saying I was taking it out of context and making a mockery of it, and like that this just not a good look, right? So I was ready to dismiss that critique, but I don't want to alienate my Christian audience because I have nothing against y'all. So I would like to play the clip in full context so we can contextualize it, right? Because I do think that's a fair critique that we shouldn't be taking things out of context. And obviously, while it looks funny for him to be saying swallowed up, have you ever been swallowed up? And it's so overwhelming and swallowing, right? But yeah, we don't just do jokes around here. We want to also be fair to people and not take their clips out of context. So let's quickly watch the full thing. It's only 1 minute long, so we're going to get through it briefly and then we can get to the color purple.
Come out the closet and stop keeping a secret and let the world know if it had not been for the Lord that was on my side.
So he appears to say that it was in the closet and you got to stop keeping it a secret. And if it had not been for the Lord, let's let him continue. I'm just talking so it's not just playing his full thing without any transformative blah, blah, blah.
I would have been, I would have been, I would have been, I would have been I would have been swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up? Have you gone through a time of swallowing where everything was overwhelming and you were at your wit's end? That is my point of view.
So that is his point of view. He something earlier, come out the closet, stop staying in the closet. If it weren't for God, I would have been in the closet, swallowed up. I would have been swallowed up. Level Up Single Mom says, I just realized I was swallowed up the last few years. I reached that understanding like an hour ago. Oh, yes. And I'm not saying what he's saying is dumb, by the way. I've been swallowed up, too. We've all been swallowed up before. Let's let him continue, though.
Because my point of view in the Easter story is relational. But from God's perspective, it is quite transactional.
What do you have to say about that, Rizzy? It's transactional for him, in his point of view. Anything to say on that? Okay.
Not really, no.
Okay, I'll let it play the last 5 seconds.
The word redemption is in its nature transactional.
So there you have it. That's the full context. It's not obviously the entire sermon. We're not about to play this man's entire sermon. Y'all know how black preachers are, especially. So we're not about to play 3 hours of swallowed up over here. But I just wanted to kind of give some context to it, because I do think it's important we understand not only that he was swallowed up, but also he was in the closet and it was transactional. So thank you, TD Jakes, for providing that additional context. And hopefully y'all stay out of my comments talking about I don't contextualize things or I'm making light of them. Now that we've moved past that. Oh, I did want to share this too, because I think this was interesting. Then we can get into it. This is just an article that I actually saw on Themis's something that he did Friday, talking about something I forgot. But what I didn't forget was this high school hoop star that was revealed to be a grown man who wanted to relive his heyday. I wish I could find the thing that Themis played, but I can't at the moment. Yes, Miss Audio, transactional. It's been so long since I've been swallowed up. Yes. So we're all like, what context did he provide? No, he was saying he was in the closet. I don't know if we watched a different video, but he just contextualized it for me, because swallowed up can be taken out of context. But when you say, oh, I was in the closet, God brought me out, you got to live your truth and just acknowledge that sometimes you get swallowed up, and it's not always relational, it's sometimes transactional, and that's, God is redemption. It feels very clear to me. It provided context for me. That's interesting, because we are going to talk about black men and femininity today, and some other things. But yeah, this high school hoop star was revealed to be a grown man. I'm going to quickly read this. Roseanne, you can interrupt at any time. A 25-year-old man lived a double life as a teenager for 9 months, even dating a 14-year-old, just so he could play high school basketball again, school officials said. The tea is done steeping, so I'm going to go ahead and take a sip, because right now is the time to sip tea, I believe. Yes. Perfect. That really cleared my throat up. Sydney Bouvier Gilstrap Portley. Roseanne, is that a black name? That does not sound like a black name.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I was like, no. Anyway, claimed to be a Hurricane Harvey refugee in August, when he enrolled as a freshman under the name Rashawn Richardson at Skyline High School in Dallas. He later transferred to Hillcrest High School, where he joined the basketball team and dominated younger players en route to being named the district's Offensive Player of the Year, the Dallas Morning News reports. He took that as an opportunity to gain access to our schools. Dallas Independent School District spokeswoman, that's a lot, Robin Harris told the newspaper. He was fairly savvy to be able to utilize that type of position, knowing that we are accepting Harvey students, Hurricane Harvey students. Gilstrap Portley fully immersed himself in the high school scene, going so far as to date a 14-year-old classmate, according to the girl's mother. It's unbelievable to me that he could get away with this, the unidentified woman said. I don't know how the school let this slip through the cracks. And I think this is important what she said to him, because we've spoken about this on one of my videos today. The woman who spoke on condition of anonymity. How do you say that word, please?
Anonymity.
Okay, that word. Huh?
Yeah, anonymity.
Mimims said she didn't approve of her daughter's relationship with the man they both knew as the 17-year-old Rashawn. But the woman said her daughter told her she did not have a sexual relationship with Gilstrap Portley, whom she never met but had spoken to over the phone. He was always respectful to me, she told the newspaper. He said he understood my concerns, but said he was only 17 and that he didn't see a problem with them dating. Gilstrap Portley's deception was finally revealed when one of his former coaches from North Mesquite High School recognized him during a tournament in April. The coach then got in touch with his counterpart at Hillcrest to inform him that, quote, one of my former players who graduated a time ago is playing for you. According to Harris, he was a good kid, North Mesquite's coach Philip Randall told the newspaper. I never had any problem out of him. That's why I was shocked when I heard that all this came out, because that's not the kid I knew. Gilstrap Portley, who had no previous criminal history, was arrested Friday on a charge of tampering with government records. He was taken into custody at the Dallas County Jail, but has since been released after posting bail, court's records show. School officials, meanwhile, notified parents of the bizarre incident in a letter Monday and vowed to review the district's policies. KXAS reports. Also, I think I read that in a follow-up, the mom is suing the school district for this happening and not having better measures to prevent someone from literally infiltrating their school as an adult, dating minors, and going out here pretending like he's LeBron James on the court with some children. So I think that's important, because Amani brought up dating on the podcast yesterday, and y'all know I don't believe anybody can vet. Obviously, we should instruct people to don't go in a van with someone if they're giving you candy, right? And there are obvious things we can vet. But even this man, who you would think something like this is impossible to happen, no, this man is respectfully talking to the mom, talking about, I understand your concerns, but I'm really a nice guy. And there's no problem with us dating. I'm only 17. I'm like, this man knows exactly what to say, how to lie. I think Cynthia even brought it up. There's something called a chameleon personality, which I have to look more into before I endorse that idea. But yeah, I don't think we can vet. I don't think we can vet, y'all. The school district can't vet. The FBI, the CIA can't vet. So I don't think we can. But that's all my thoughts on that. Roseanne, if you have anything, you can add it.
No.
Okay, that's that on that. Let's get into the color purple, everybody. Oh my God, this tea. What is this? Let me look at what this is. Rooibos hibiscus. Amazing.
Rooibos? I don't know what that is. I don't know how to pronounce that.
So Boosie has some things to say about the color purple. He said he walked out of the movie because he had an issue with this lesbian gay agenda that they have in the movie. Let me pull up Boosie's statement. He said he had an issue with the gay agenda. We're not about to talk about that. Oh, Boosie walks out of The Color Purple, won't allow his kids to watch. Let's see why he walked out and won't allow his kids to watch. I had to walk out the Color Purple movie. Let me put it on the screen because I do think this is important. Boosie in all caps says, I had to walk out this Color Purple movie, and 2 other older couples walked out also. Big popcorn emoji. Because I had my little girls with me, and it seemed like a rainbow love story! Exclamation point. Good acting, but whoever wrote the script is pushing the narrative hard! Exclamation point. As a parent, I will not let my little girl. We got to go to the full thing to get watch this film. Why they made us click on this man's profile and give him a view just to say that? Now people were commenting on the fact that Boosie obviously never read the book and didn't watch the first movie, didn't watch the first musical. I don't understand people who are confused about the Color Purple still being the Color Purple after 40 years since the first movie came out, and even longer since the book. I don't understand what people thought I don't know if they thought they was about to watch Batman versus Superman 2. I don't know what they thought they were going to see and why they didn't do any research on this movie. But he said the part that that made him walk out and decide not to show it to his children is because of 2 women kissing. Now that's interesting because he said he had his little girls with him in the cinema watching it. And if y'all know the Color Purple, any of them, if you've read it, watched the first movie, the first musical, or this one, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, a grown man is raping his daughter. So it's interesting that Boosie and his daughters felt like all of this is okay to sit through until the lesbian part, he says, I guess the rainbow part. Oh, they eating him up in the comments. They are eating him up in the comments.
As they should.
Jesus. She said, so y'all are more upset that Miss Silly and Shug Avery was exploring their sexuality, but didn't draw the line at her being molested at 14 by her stepfather and having his kids. This really shows me why y'all still let that fresh uncle come to the family reunion, but throw your gay kids on the street. That's an interesting perspective because it does seem like people are upset not at Black women having experienced any of the things that were depicted in this movie, but at number 1, the gay agenda, and number 2, Black men's depiction. So we're going to get into that. Someone tagged T.S. Madison. Ah, my God. I feel like it's going to get messy. But anywho, before we get into the Color of Purple discourse, if you don't have anything to add yet, I'd like to give a brief summary of the movie. If I can skip that, you guys think, then we can go straight to the review because I had some words. I had a lot to say about the review. So I'll let y'all put a 1 in the chat if you feel like we should go through a brief summary. In a 2, the brief summary is going to be Wikipedia, by the way. So in a 2, if y'all feel like we already got it, we already know what the Color Purple is. It's been 40 years. So 1, if we need to do a recap. 2, if we can skip it and just go to the discussion. Let me remix that. And people say I don't love Black culture. You think white people invented remixes? Nope. Anyway, being gay is the worst in the Black community. Yeah, they don't like that. They don't like that. We'll sweep that suspicious uncle right under the rug. But gay son, that's where I draw the line. That's where the line is drawn. I didn't see any other movie. So y'all, most of y'all are saying 2. I see 1. So we're going to skip the recap because we all know what the Color Purple is. Any objections, Raz? Do you feel like we need to recap?
I think we should give a little brief recap. Just a little brief recap.
Okay. So Silly.
That was happening.
Silly is a poor African American girl, Black. She lives in a rural Georgia in the early 1900s. She writes letters to God because her father, Alfonso, beats and rapes her. Due to the rape, she gives birth to two children, Olivia and Adam, whom Alfonso takes away. A farmer who is identified as Mr. Asks to marry her younger sister, Nettie, but Alfonso offers him Silly instead. Silly proceeds to be abused by Mr. and mistreated by his prior children. Nettie runs away and stays with Silly because her father is trying to come on to her as well. But Mr. eventually makes her leave after she refuses his unwanted sexual advances. Let me give a trigger warning, by the way. Oops, we were supposed to do that at the beginning, actually, but there's a lot in this movie. So if y'all haven't seen it yet, which one of you said you didn't? Two of you said you didn't. It's a lot, so y'all just give that warning in case you need to step out for a couple of minutes. So yeah, Mr. eventually makes her leave after she refuses his advances, and Nettie promises to write. And however, Silly never receives any letters, and Silly concludes that Nettie is dead. Mr.'s son, Harpo, marries an assertive girl named Sophia. Silly is impressed by Sophia's self-esteem, but Mr. is chiding Harpo for what he considers weakness in his treatment of Sophia. In a moment of envy, Silly tells Harpo to beat Sophia, and Sophia fights back and confronts Silly, who apologizes and confides in her about Mr.'s abuse. Suge Avery, a jazz and blues singer and Mr.'s longtime mistress, we're reading the Wikipedia, by the way, moves in. Silly takes care of Suge, who is ill. While Suge is initially rude to Silly, the two become friends and Silly becomes infatuated with Suge. Frustrated by Harpo's domineering behavior, Sophia moves out, taking her children with her. Several months later, Harpo opens a juke joint where a fully recovered Suge performs nightly. Suge learns that Mr. beats Silly and vows to stay at the house until she is convinced he will stop. Suge and Silly grow closer. So Sophia returns for a visit and gets into a fight with Harpo's new girlfriend, Squeak. She has a verbal spat with the mayor's wife, Miss Millie, and after the mayor slaps her, she hits him back. The mayor and his wife are white people, by the way. She's beaten by the police, also white, and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Squeak tricks the warden, her white uncle, into releasing Sophia from prison and having her work as Miss Millie's maid. The plan works, but the warden, RAPE Squeak. I feel like I've already said it out, so I don't have to censor. Sophia is released from prison and forced to work for Miss Millie, which she detests. She's also kind of a shell of herself at this point. Squeak cares for Sophia's children, and the two women become friends. Suge returns to town, newly married to a man called Grady, and together they learn that Mr. has hidden letters from Nettie for years. In the letters, Nettie says she befriended a missionary couple, Samuel and Corrine, and gone to Africa with them. Samuel and Corrine had unwittingly adopted Adam and Olivia, Silly's children. Through Samuel's story of the adoption, Nettie learns that Alfonso is her and Silly's stepfather. Their biological father was lynched, and their mother then suffered a mental collapse that Alfonso exploited. Nettie confesses to Samuel and Corrine that she is the children's biological aunt. Corrine, gravely ill, refuses to believe Nettie until Nettie reminds her that she had previously met Silly. Later, Corrine dies, having accepted Nettie's story. Silly visits Alfonso, we're almost to the end, who confirms Nettie's story. Silly confides to Suge that she is losing faith in God, and Suge explains to Silly her own unique religious philosophy. Silly, Suge, and Squeak decide to leave town. Silly curses Mr. before leaving him, almost kills him, decides not to. They settle in Memphis, Tennessee, and Silly starts a pants-making business. Alfonso dies, and Silly inherits land that rightfully should have been passed down to her and Nettie because it belonged to their biological father and mother. She moves back into her childhood home. Silly is crushed when Suge falls in love with Jermaine, a member of her band, and Suge travels with Jermaine, writing postcards to Silly. Silly pledges to love Suge, even if Suge does not love her back. And Silly learns that Mr. is suffering from a considerable decline in fortunes and begins calling him by his first name, Albert. Mr. proposes that they marry, in the spirit as well as in the flesh, but Silly declines. And Nettie and Samuel marry and prepare to return to America. Before they leave, Adam marries Tashi, an African girl. Following tradition, Tashi undergoes female circumcision and facial scarring. In solidarity, Adam undergoes the same facial scarring ritual. Um, I guess he's not circumcised, so I guess it's like half solidarity. I don't know what that's about, because if you really want to be in solidarity, sorry, let me finish reading. As Silly realizes that she is content without Suge, Suge returns. Having endured her relationship with Jermaine, Nettie, Samuel, Olivia, Adam, and Tashi arrive at Silly's house. Nettie and Silly reunite after 30 years, introducing one another to their respective families. Yeah, like you playing around. So you tell I'm experiencing this discrimination. You're gonna post a black square on Instagram, and now we equal. We're both in solidarity together. I put the black square anyway. So that's the recap. Now we can get into, I guess, just the review and discussion of the movie, and then my concerns with the discourse around this movie, particularly the discourse from the Black community, because white people don't seem interested in this movie at all. At all, from what I've seen.
Hello.
I haven't seen a single white man review it.
What are they gonna say? You know, they don't like to step on our toes too much. At least not in this movie. I don't know why. They usually do, but
yes, it is horrible. So I mean, my review is very, very brief. I think the storyline was good. The acting I thought was overdone, especially at specific moments. However, there were also other moments that I thought were extremely good in this movie, as far as both acting in, like, whoever directed, or I think Quentin. No, it's not Quentin Tarantino. Who is it? Hold up. I have to look at it. So while I find that, okay, I found it. So yeah, I don't know who produced it, but it was a white man.
oh
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought that.
Really?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I would have thought there was it all white people?
I have to look. I'm looking for it. I really am. I'm looking for it. I can't find it at the moment. I'm looking for the movie specifically. Oh, here it is. Steven Spielberg.
Oh.
Directed by, let's go to the film of the same name. Directed by Steven Spielberg, written by Menno Meijers, a Dutch-born American screenwriter. And of course, based on Alice Walker's book, which people generally call it a faithful adaptation outside of people say that the book is more, they say the book is more descriptive, more detailed, and like graphic. So that's generally the critique I see as far as the difference between the book and the movie, is that
more graphic than the original movie.
Yeah, the movie plays down some scenes. Like they say the two women kissing in the book, they say it's like a lot more explicit things.
Okay.
As well as in the beginning when the father is diddling his daughter, it is a lot more graphic, they say in the book, and descriptive. So right. But I haven't read the book yet, so y'all gonna have to look for that review in the future. And maybe that'll change my mind about my thoughts about the movie today after I read the book. So I mean, I'm leaving that open. I don't think so, because people generally say it's faithful outside of playing down things. So it wouldn't have changed any of my critiques of the movie. But yeah, there are specific parts where I thought the acting and direction was done very, very well. Specifically, and I told you about this earlier, the moment where we're talking about the 1985 film, by the way, not the recent musical. The moment where Mr. is riding on the horse and he's harassing, that's the name. I was going to say flirting, but no, he's harassing this little girl. She is a child, while she's, I think, walking to school, and she like picks up her pace. He picks up his pace. He's on a horse, and it's just shot really well. I don't know how to describe it, but it built up so much tension in me.
Yeah.
And I was literally on the edge of my seat. And basically, the whole thing was tense. And even after she escapes from that situation, the tension doesn't go away for me because, okay, you're going to have to go back home and he's going to be there.
Right.
And he's going to do something. I thought he was going to do something. I'd never seen the movie before, so I didn't know he kicks her out. But I thought he was going to do something at the house. So I'm tense. And then he kicks her out. And I'm like, okay, well, she can't go anywhere because this is the 1900s. So what can you do? You're just going to go somewhere else. Literally, the reason she's there is because she's running away from a situation that's arguably worse because it's from her father. So this movie invoked like emotion in me, mainly like sympathy, sadness, I would say, with the idea that a Black woman might be alive in this time period, experiencing a universal abuse that she cannot escape in any corner of society, in a society where even the good men in are misogynist. The quote unquote good men are misogynistic at best. And that's very scary to think about. That's obviously I've thought about Black people generally in the past and the idea of being in white America where you might be lynched for whistling at someone, right? Because I'm not stupid. So I've obviously looked at history from that perspective, but I've never considered a Black woman's perspective this as intimately as this movie had me, because it's like even in the community, you can't find insulation from this. So it was very eye-opening for me. And although I had issues with the acting at some portions, I thought it was a very powerful and very good movie. And I thought it was very amazing. So the idea that that's the emotion it invoked in me, and then like the discourse that I saw around it was like, oh, but I don't like how it portrayed Black men, seemed very reductive. Like my first thing walking out of the I did not walk out no theater, but walking away
Oh,
from
you
that
were watching
movie.
it on you were watching
Yes,
on your
but I'm watching it on my TV. But look, I have a projector. I don't anyway. So
I know.
my first thought walking away from the screen that is projected onto this wall was like sympathy and understanding I felt like for Black women. Maybe not understanding because I don't know that I can understand shoes that I'm not in, but at least sympathy and understanding from an external perspective. So it's unusual when Boosie's critique is like, it's gay. There's a gay part. And
Yeah.
the gay part is like a kiss in
That's
longing, I guess. So yeah, I thought I got in the review, and my review is basically like acting, specific parts, very powerful, very, I'm like gripping my seat. And then the story I liked. Any thoughts on the movie itself before we get to the discourse?
right. Many, many, many thoughts. So yes, it's also my first time watching the movie. I've never watched it. I've avidly avoided watching this movie because I knew it has something to do with Black women, but I never like looked into it deeper because I was very afraid of being triggered because of my own experiences, obviously as a Black woman, but like also as someone who's experienced colorism and relating to the character of Celie, like that really it just kind of gave me, I was very hesitant to watch the movie. So watching it, I probably cried a dozen times separate. I would cry and then I'd stop and then I'd cry. And I think um you're right. I think it's difficult to understand the how Black women would feel in the position that you see the characters in. But knowing that I can relate not to everything, but to a lot of the things in the movie that the women are going through, all the characters are going through. I can see myself. I can see parts of myself in them, and I think really it was very painful to sit through that and watch. But I couldn't really keep my eyes off the screen because I was rooting for everyone in the movie. So I'm very emotionally attached to movies, which is why I don't watch a lot. But this one specifically was very emotionally invoking. Again, lots of crying, and I think that the scene, and I guess we'll talk about it later, but I think the scene between Suge and Celia kissing is something I actually cried the most during that scene, and I'll say why later. But I cried the most. It was actually the most jarring part for me. So to reduce it to, well, they're gay or they're queer or whatever, um, like you said, it's very reductive, and it really takes away from everything that Celia was going through. And I think Alice Walker herself addressed a lot of things in the movie that even to this day we're struggling to talk about in the Black feminist space. And clearly, even now, when the new movie is coming out, Black men are dominating the critique of this movie by dismissing it in its entirety, because it reduces their imagery in society when in reality the movie should prioritize, like, Black women's feelings should be prioritized as I think that correct reaction should be Black women being prioritized, not dismissed. So very emotionally invoking, to put it short, but yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I'll also echo what you said earlier, way earlier, by the way, regarding when I looked up this movie and found out it was a white man who directed it. I was like shocked, because I'm not gonna lie, this felt like it was written by a Black woman, but I did also read that he closely followed the book, so they didn't deviate from the book a lot outside of, like I said, downplaying those certain scenes. And I was reading something from 2010 regarding what Alice Walker said on it. Like,
what did she say? I'm curious.
one line here is she believes that the sexual relationship between the two women is not obvious in the movie because in the movie all the women kiss each other, making the kiss between Silly and Suge less significant. The blurring of gender traits and sexual ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
Hold up. I started from the middle, not the beginning. Hold up. This is like really long. That's why I'm trying to find a passage that I can start from instead of it's like
not
yeah,
the essay.
it's a whole thing I was reading.
Not the dissertation.
It's a evaluation of the film adaptation. I haven't gotten through the whole thing. I'd like to, but her main critique had to be with downplaying what happened in the story. So if people are upset at the gay agenda, nah, Alice Walker one of them people to fuck. So y'all, no, I'm just playing, but that's her. That seems like her main critique as well. So we can move from the movie and get into my concerns with the discourse around this movie. So I think I would say, and this is probably why I decided to do this stream, most of the critiques that I've seen, mind you, I have not seen white people review this movie a lot. I don't know where their reviews are. I don't know if they've seen this movie at all or if they even care. So I'm going specifically off of what I see in the Black community, and specifically from Black men, because so this is anecdotal, obviously, and I don't know how to quantify what percent of what is happening, but it feels like when Black women are looking at this movie, they are sympathizing with it. And when Black men are looking at this movie, they are extremely dismissive of Black women's experiences with Black men in an effort to protect Black men. I have seen some Black women who are doing that too. That's just not what I've mostly seen. So I do want to add that this is my anecdote, and I haven't done like an empirical study on how much of who is doing negative versus positive critiques amongst gender. This is just what I've noticed on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and any other video sharing platform that I've seen. So like I said earlier, in my mind, I'm like feeling a lot of emotions when I'm watching this movie, mainly sympathy. So it's upsetting to me when the first thing someone looks at when they see this movie is, I don't like how Mr. looked in it. I've seen someone say that the abuser in this movie, they should have the movie should have went in depth in white supremacy and how this causes black men to beat black women. There were people in the comments of Boyce Watkins is a big YouTuber. There were people in his comment section because he critiqued this movie too. He said, "Oh, this is a feminist movie to turn y'all get." Anyway, in his comments, while there were a lot of women disagreeing with him, there were men who were like, "So what did y'all expect black men to do if they go out and they're being lynched and they're being hurt by white people? What do you expect? Do you expect them to be good partners when they come home?" And that feels extremely.
Yeah, let's kill black women. That's the solution. Anyway,
It feels like, you're not saying it verbatim.
low key.
We should excuse them killing black women, raping black women, and doing whatever. You're not saying it verbatim, but you have to understand that this is what you're saying. You're not saying it directly, but this is what you're saying when you say, well, what do you expect me to do if my life is hard? I don't expect you to put your hands on someone, and I don't expect you to sympathize with characters who do that to black women, right? So that's concerning to me. That also, when I see people who I would consider like pro-black, it feels like they have such an intense hatred for this movie and such a strong desire to suppress it, usually with the justification of it makes black men look bad. And I've tried to find like a diverse amount of critiques, but the main thing always seems to come to it makes black men look bad. So that's upsetting. That's upsetting to me. It feels like black men are unable to have any movie that has a black male villain, even when that means that you're silencing black women. So I can understand you saying, "Oh, some of the black men in this movie look bad." Even I guess Mister is, I don't know if he's the main character, but he's one of the main characters, and he's a black man, and he's a villain. I completely understand you looking at a movie and feeling uncomfortable that someone looks like you is doing something bad. I completely understand that, and I don't want to dismiss that. But what does it mean when you are like protecting the abuser in this movie? That's what makes you look bad. Not one black man putting his hands on a woman. That don't make you look bad. That makes abusive men look bad. It makes you look bad if you come out and sympathize for this man and try to protect him.
For sure.
Particularly when none of the critiques I've seen is like, "Oh my God, black women, I didn't know it was like this. I completely understand why." Like you would think we'd have a measured critique, like, "Black women, I understand why you sympathize with this movie, but I feel like the depiction of black." No, there is no attempt at all from any critiques that I've seen to even sympathize with black women. All of it's like, you've been duped by the white man to make black men look bad. You've been duped by feminism to be gay and to villainize men, or like it seems very remedial, which is unusual, particularly when it's coming from pro-black spaces who I feel like will put a lot of effort and a lot of sort of an academic lens when they're assessing something like white supremacy, for example. But when it comes to the type of oppression black men might be doing to black women in the community, because I do believe that black men can oppress black women, right? Even though we're both black, there's still a sort of
there's a hierarchy.
Yes, there's still a hierarchy, and we're still in a patriarchy where you might have more privilege than the women do. And there are ways that you can oppress women just like any race of men can. So it feels unusual for, I guess, the kind of pro-black, obviously all people, not just pro-black, black people are talking about this movie, but specifically the pro-black people who have the ability to engage in this type of rigorous analysis of white supremacy or anything else can't do it when it comes to black women. And they can't do it when they have to acknowledge that, oh, maybe I have some privilege, or maybe like there are ways that I might oppress people. And I even wonder, do these people maybe do these things? Like, do they do them in their personal relationships? And that's why, oh, if I condemn Albert or Silly's father for doing this, then I have to condemn myself because I do some of these things sometimes. So I don't want to woo. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I've been talking, so you can, sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it's, first of all, I appreciate your perspective. I think it's important to kind of understand weird thoughts and emotions towards what you've seen, because I haven't really seen any of the critique except one meme or something on Facebook about this. But basically, the meme that I saw on Facebook was saying that, oh, Alice Walker has a white man. No wonder she hates black men. But I don't think the issue here was a hatred for black men necessarily. I think what we're trying to reveal here is that what keeps black women subjugated is more than just white supremacy. It's black men, it's other types of men that are not white. Like it's very multifaceted. White women, etc. And I don't think I of course I think that it just starts within the black community. The oppression is very insidious that way because it's multi-layered for black women. And I think that that's really the point that Alice Walker is probably trying to convey, is saying, hey, like black women are not just experiencing racism, they're experiencing misogyny from black men, from white men, from other races of men, from other races of women, and even maybe from other women by them being complacent. In this movie, we've seen women having to stay silent while other women are being beat on or battered for their own protection. So it's very, very new, very nuanced, very multi-layered, and I feel like the fact that black men just try to be so selfish, dare I say selfish, in their view of this movie and making it about themselves. And I just don't understand how any human being, regardless of who you are, can look at this movie and not feel bad for the black women in it, not feel any sort of sympathy. How is your first thought, well, I look bad in the movie? Where's your compassion? I mean, both things can exist at once. You can say, well, I felt uncomfortable because this person looks like me, or this person looks like somebody I know and they're doing XYZ. But at the same time, the black women are sort of are having to deal with this atrocity. I feel like both conversations can happen at once. Unfortunately, though, in pro-black spaces, especially black men in pro-black spaces, view black oppression as a monolith. They don't understand that within the black community, there are different privileges allotted to specific people within our community, right? Just like we've been oppressed by white people on the outside, within our community, we created hierarchies to instill some form of power because that's all we know. So we need to really dismantle this mentality in order to get rid of it, basically. But that starts with the people who are upholding it. And the people who are upholding misogynoir and other forms of abuse towards black women are black men. And the fact that they cannot recognize that they are the perpetrators of, like, we should have spaces that are safe in the black community, and we don't even have that. And in 2024, we still don't have that. And I cannot foresee us having it in the future, unfortunately, because it's frustrating. I wish that I could look at the black community, the state of the black community, the state of pro-black rhetoric, and try to understand. Like, I don't see it. There's no progression. This has been ongoing, like, probably prior to the civil rights movement. But even a critique of the civil rights movement was that the black men who were at the forefront of these movements were viewing black women as if they were a part of themselves. Like, they would view them as a monolith. They wouldn't acknowledge that black women on their own also have problems that black men don't face. And we still have this rhetoric. We still have this rhetoric till this day. So it's a problem. I don't know how we're going to dismantle it, but I feel like this critique, it just reminds me that we are not progressing. If anything, this is just kind of throwing us backwards.
Thank you. Well said, and don't disagree. I did also want to address the critique that is, I guess, that this is the gay agenda, or in this case, the lesbian agenda. There were comments such as, do they not understand or do they not care? I think they're unwilling to understand. I think it feels like people literally turn their brain off when discussing this.
Right.
It feels, I already mentioned people talking about white supremacy and going into theory for 45 minutes. on white supremacy in the workplace, white supremacy in how it can affect even the Black community, and Black people can echo remnants of white supremacy and apply anti-Blackness to other people, right? People will go into entire dissertations about this, and then,
100%.
what about what we can do to Black women sometimes? What are you talking about? This has never happened in the community ever. Black men and women have always gotten along. It was anyway. Like, I don't know. It just feels so reductive and so brain dead.
Very much so.
No, sorry to the brain dead community. That's an insult to people who are brain dead, because I feel like brain dead people could give more than what the people who are critiquing this movie are giving. So people are upset with the gay agenda, or in this case, I guess the lesbian agenda, which they say is to demonize men and somehow turn women gay with depictions of women kissing in the movie. And this discourse is always confusing to me,
Right.
because I'm like, I've said this to a man verbatim on his, well, not verbatim, but nearly exactly like this on his stream, because I was genuinely confused. If you see two men kissing on TV, for example, because there was a New Year's kiss in New York City that people were upset about, and your thoughts are, oh my God, this is making me want to kiss men, I need to stop this from being shown on TV, or else I and other men will start wanting to kiss men. I don't want my boy children to start wanting to kiss men. I feel like had I been a child and seen this growing up, I would be kissing men. I have some bad news for you, sir. It is not the movies making you gay. I don't know why people say that. People watch straight people on TV all the time and don't turn, gay people don't turn straight from watching like the 90% of
And
media.
it's the norm. It's the norm to be straight. So you would think that them seeing straight people, they would be tempted, but no.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. And you mentioned something about it not even being necessarily gay, right? You had your own theory.
Right. So I said this earlier, but the scene actually made me cry a lot. And I think it's because, well, I was more focused on the movie itself, of course, and I was very into the plot, and so much so that I didn't even realize like all the deficits with acting, with the some parts were, I agree, some parts were not great in terms of the acting. But anyway, in this part specifically, up until this point, Celie is being battered. She's being beat on. She's being raped. She's being hit multiple times in the face. She's bleeding. She's being called ugly. She's being called black, dark skin, like very, very, very violent verbally and obviously physically towards her. And I think this scene, at least within the context of the movie, I don't know about the book, but at least within the context of the movie, it's really the first time Celie experiences any form of intimacy from anyone at all, period. And the fact that it's from a Black woman made me cry, because I think it's a testament to the fact that, yes, there are issues within the Black feminist space, but at least we will find solidarity within our own communities as women. And I think that that's what the scene represented to me. I didn't even think it was lesbian or queer or whatever. I didn't even think of that. I just thought, oh my God, Celie is finally experiencing love from another human being, period, regardless if it was a man or a woman. And the only other time she's felt, and she's repeated this herself within the movie, the character has said this, saying that the only other person who's shown her love was her sister. So Shug kissing her face, hugging her, embracing her, telling her she loves her, is really just a way of being of showcasing love that she's never experienced. She never got it from her husband. She never got to have her kids in her life. She got her sister taken away from her early. Her dad was obviously abusing her, and her real dad died, and her mom as well. So Celie was very much touch deprived in every sense of the word. And I think that scene showcased that how much she needed that. And of course we can extend that to a bigger macro problem, but within the context of the movie, I think it was very effective. And I really think that's what it represented to me.
That's an interesting interpretation. I was reading, I forgot the name of this podcast, but it was these two women looking at it in 2022, and they were addressing like the gay agenda claims as well. And they were like, yeah, they were like, the thing that people are probably upset at is that women are going to see this and know that they can turn to other women for solidarity or turn to other women for comfort, whether that's physical, mental, spiritual, or whatever have you. So their interpretation felt similar, where it wasn't even necessarily about like, this is gay, but rather this is all my life I had to fight. So,
Yeah.
so what's the word I'm looking like?
Looking for?
Hmm?
You said looking like.
Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry. Yeah, like the words are not wording. All my life I had to fight basically.
Right.
And the first comfort you find is from number one, her sister, but also from another woman later in your
Right.
life. So maybe this does depict Black women who are being abused by some men in their community, and other men in the community refuse to call that out, or just are flat out misogynistic or doing the same thing. But you can turn to the women in your community for comfort. Maybe that is a message of the movie, but I don't think that's
Maybe.
necessarily bad.
I don't think it's bad either, and I think like there was another feminist scholar. She basically said that there was this issue of where do Black women go? Where do Black women turn to when everyone is they're abused or marginalized or experiencing oppression at the hands of everyone? Where do they go to? And her conclusion was other Black women. And I think that that's kind of what I was reminded of in the scene. It was just so beautiful that at her worst, she has someone who she can now go to. Finally, she's experiencing love and compassion from someone. And also, I mean, even if it is gay or even if it is queer or whatever, I don't necessarily think that's wrong. I mean, I don't want to move away from that conversation. I don't necessarily, if that was what was happening, which Alice Walker says it was, why is that a bad thing? Why is representing some form of hetero or homosexuality or diverting from the norm? Why is that necessarily a bad thing? I think it's important to also view Black women not just in a monolithic way, but understanding of Black women come in all shapes and sizes and forms and sexualities. And I think if that was happening, even if it was happening, what is the issue with that? I think a part of being pro-Black is also accepting Black people, not just when they're straight, not just when they're men, not just when they're straight women who are attractive. It should also be all types of women, regardless of what they like. So either or, it's not an issue.
So I guess I'll move to our next portion of discussion, which I think people have concerns with regarding, is the movie an accurate depiction of Black women's experience? And I think, in my opinion, before we get into data, I think yes, this movie depicts Black women facing not only racism and stereotyping from white women and men, because they were accosted by what is Oprah's character's name?
Sophia.
Sophia is accosted by, Sophia is a loud Black woman in every sense of that sentence.
Who's the stereotype, really?
The stereotype, yes, big Black loud woman,
Yeah.
and she is just being Black, and this white woman coming up and touching her and her kids' hair, and she's like, "Get back!" And she's facing open racism.
Right.
This white woman being openly racist towards her, stereotyping her,
Right.
other white people coming around, ganging up on her, a white man
Mhm.
beating her, and then she retaliates, which I think is fair. I don't know how y'all feel about. I don't know how, if y'all feel like nonviolent. I don't know what y'all feel like, but I feel like what she did was fair given the circumstances.
She should have beat her ass more. Anyway.
Anyway, I don't condone violence. I have to
I
say
condone
that.
violence towards people who deserve it.
Anywho, but yeah, she's facing police brutality. The police don't even listen to her. They beat her, unfair imprisonment, and it also shows the type of effect that prison can have on a Black woman, because her character starts off as like basically a strong Black woman stereotype in every sense of the stereotype, and she's seemingly stripped of her entire person and reduced to like a docile woman after the prison stint until near the end of the movie, where she's then forced into servitude to white people. And this is well after slavery. Well after, but it's after slavery. So yeah, this is depicting struggles that I believe Black women were going through during that time. It also depicts struggles that Black women would have had with Black men. So yeah, domestic violence and rape are things that would have happened in the community. This type of arranged marriage where her father literally arranged her with an abuser, abuse from her father. Them rowdy kids, I definitely think that was accurate, probably still accurate today. And the type of, but also showing the type of solidarity that the Black women had together, and that they could, she's literally riding with her sister, learning how to read. Yeah, it was words. I haven't watched it for like a week, so it's not fresh in my mind, but I'm pretty sure they were learning words, not letters. So words, and like she's learning stuff, basically. They're learning stuff together. They're writing each other, even though she's not getting the letters. And she and Sophia eventually are able to like confide in each other. Sophia in the character, what is it? Sweet Pea, Squish, Squeak. Sophia and Squeak, whatever woman she was fighting with, they eventually find solidarity in each other. At the end of the movie, the women are finding solidarity in each other. So yeah, it doesn't just show the struggles that Black women are facing, but also that they're able to find solidarity in each other. It also doesn't depict Black women as perfect. The main character, Silly, is encouraging her stepson to abuse his wife because she's jealous of this strong Black woman who don't take nothing, and she wants to knock her down a peg, even if she eventually apologizes for it and explains her own abuse. Right? She's a flawed character. And Oprah is fighting this man back, but I assume she's defending. They play it like she's defending herself, so I think she's just defending herself in that relationship, to be honest. I don't think she was starting anything. So but yeah, the Black women in this story are flawed too. So I think this is definitely, I think it's realistic. It seems realistic to me. It seems like an accurate portrayal of something that would be going on in the community. Do I think this is every single person in the community doing this? No, but certainly you can say some, maybe even most. So
yeah, I agree. I think it is accurate. Even the reason, again, I cried the entire 2.5 hours is because even though I couldn't relate to every single thing that every single character was going through, I saw parts of myself in each single one of them. And I think that specifically with Sophia, something I liked about her is that out of all the characters, she was the one who I think tried her best to remain strong, and she didn't try. She really fought back against subjugation from every single person. And I think, at least the way she was written, is even though she did all that, she still went to jail. She transformed from this very rowdy, loud, vivacious personality to someone who didn't even talk for years. After she went to jail and came back out, she just turned into a completely different person. So I think that's a testament to the fact that even when Black women do fight back or do talk back or are loud or are standing their ground, society will still press down on them. I think that's probably one of the most accurate takeaways for me from the movie is like, that's still very much real. That's something I'm going through at the moment, right? So I feel like, at least for Black women, they can see themselves in these movies even if they're not American, even if they're not from the West, they can still see parts of their lives interweaved into this movie. And even though incest is not a reality for every single person in the Black community, it is quite prevalent in the Black community. And I think that it's very important that she included that. She included, rape and incest and whatever, all of this. I think it is prevalent in the community, very much so. Even if it's jarring, even if it's quite taboo to talk about, I think it's bold of her to talk about or to write about something like this. I'm referring to Alice Walker when I say she. To write about something like this in the 80s is quite bold. But I think it showcases how bad things can get for Black women. If they don't end up dead, then they're getting abused consistently for years. And there's no escape. You said this earlier, there's no escape. They can't go anywhere. Where are they going to go? Go back home? You're getting beat up, you're getting molested, you're getting raped. There's no way out for Black women, and that's a reality. Even if it isn't something that is maybe accurate to that extent now, in certain situations, it's very much is. So Yeah, 10 out of 10 on accuracy.
You know what's interesting about the incest comment? You said obviously not every family, but it's probably
It's
more
very
common.
prevalent.
I used to think that this is like, I feel like everybody who's black probably thinks this, and white too. I used to feel like it was a white people crime because when I think about it, I think about like the inbred hillbilly stereotype in Alabama or something. I was surprised to see that. I think African American women are something like twice as likely to experience childhood essay than white women. And we know, according to the research, that tends to be from someone close to you, not like a boogeyman out somewhere. So it feels like almost interesting for you to say that because that feels like the male critique of the movie. It feels like what goes on in the black community, which I feel like can be a lot of sexual abuse, right, that black girls experience underage, which I read somewhere from I think like 40 to 60%, and that's considered conservative since black women, well, black girls at that point, children don't tend to report.
Right.
So the idea that something like this is happening right under our noses and yet it's still known as a white crime generally is interesting to me because
Very
my
interesting.
own anecdote is that people will sweep it under the rug for the sake of like, instead of like, hey, this uncle can't come over anymore or we need to call the police on him, they'll be like, we just need to keep hush about this. We don't need to like blow this up and make him look bad in front of people. It almost feels like the critiques that people have of this movie in a way. It feels emblematic of that when people are saying not that they have an issue with the content of the movie regarding what's happening to black women in this movie, but rather they want to sweep it under the rug to make the men look good. I do think that's quite interesting. But
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, incest is probably it's depicted very differently, as you said, in the black community. But I mean, I think that it's much more hidden and it's not talked about to protect the people who have been abused or violated at the hands of incest or at the hands of black men in incestual relationships. But it is very, very common, not just in black communities but in all racialized communities, immigrant communities, very common. And I think the reason for that, I mean, I'm Muslim, and as a Muslim, if you know anything about us in Africa or even in parts of Asia, you can marry your cousin, and that's very much acceptable. And with that comes a lot of blurring of boundaries, and the incest is, and incestual occurrences like this are also very, very, very high outside of the United States, but we don't talk about it because again, it's always pushed away, pushed aside. But I think it is important to bring it up because I mean that is extremely, it's traumatizing in a way that goes beyond just being violated, but you're being violated by someone who you trust, being violated by someone who you have a blood relation with. Um, and the only way we can unpack it is by acknowledging its existence. So, um, I don't see enough critiques of this going around on the internet, and I think we need to really think past, oh, I'm being hurt or I'm being depicted in a bad way. Let's move past that and think of the implications and the things that are brought forth.
Since you said that, speaking of critiques, I do think it's important for oh, by the way, if you are just coming in, be sure to like the video. I think this is probably not going to be monetized because we've already said a lot of expletives or however that word is pronounced. So
Mm-hmm.
be sure to like, because I'm not privating this video and I would actually like people to see it because I do think it's important for black men to discuss this movie in a way that's not dismissive. And since you said you would like to see more critique, we can see one right here. FD, good friend of the channel, remember him, guys? Had something to say about The Color Purple, and I think it's important because I want more black men to come out and stand in solidarity with black women when there are discussions like this happening. Um, so we're going to play what FD said. It was very brief, and then we can again get back into, is this accurate based on some data I was looking at. Since they're now asking you to wrap it up, The Color Purple is the topic of this stream, actually. Well, it's the topic of a live stream we're doing Thursday to speak about the discourse around The Color Purple and how I personally believe Hey, that's us today. We're doing it today. Look, we did
Wow.
it. And
Wow.
there's evidence to support that Black women tend to be silenced whenever they come out with stories about something that happens to them in an effort to make Black men look good for the sake of the Black community. Any thoughts on The Color Purple?
You spoke my truth. Like I get frustrated that
Vitamin says she has already seen ads, so I guess this is monetized for now. I think it has to be monetized because someone sent a super chat earlier, so it has to be monetized because when it's turned off, you can't. So, but it usually isn't. Like the video we're watching on the screen isn't monetized because YouTube's like, nah, this ain't the discussion that advertisers want. So,
you know, dudes, like as soon as there's a conversation around abuse that happens from Black men towards Black women, dudes act like you just insulted their entire honor, and it's like this has never happened ever in the history of the world, and you shouldn't talk about it. Like it's not fun watching the abuse in Color Purple. You know, if there were 100 Color Purples a year in theaters, maybe I would take issue. But there's one Color Purple. You know what I'm saying? So like I think this is I don't have any.
you don't think it negatively portrays Black men and reinforces stereotypes?
I mean, so like is that an like honestly, of course. But so does fucking, 21 Savage just dropped an album. You know what I'm saying? And I bumped that. And so I also saw The Color Purple, like so if you're going to argue about the negative portrayals of Black men in the media, but only argue about it when it's coming from a Black woman to talk specifically about their experiences, then I can't fuck with you, because that shows that your agenda actually isn't the negative portrayal. Your agenda is silencing Black women. But if you bump 21 Savage this whole weekend like I did, you shouldn't come out your mouth to be mad at The Color Purple. I didn't like The Color Purple remake just because it wasn't as good as the play or the original movie. I didn't have take it really. If you're going to keep it a buck, this remake was way nicer to Black men than all of the old joints.
You don't think there was a feminist agenda to make women gay?
Yeah, it's stupid.
And break up the Black family?
Yeah, no, I have nothing to add to that. No, 21 Savage wasn't deported.
Okay, well, we will eagerly be awaiting The Color Purple video where you come out and speak about this issue of Black women being silenced. I would love to hear that. And now we know you're aware, and we hope that comes out before the Themis and Thoth debate about what. Oh, we don't have to get into that. So, yeah, we are still waiting. FD, if you're in the chat, I don't know if he watches regularly. Probably not, but we are waiting for FD Signifier to come out with The Color Purple Discourse video so we can see that he stands with Black women on this issue, because I think it's important. But he said y'all are listening to this rap music and y'all know exactly how that portrays Black men and Black women. So what are y'all talking about? It seems like massage more to me. It seems selective.
I agree.
It's monetized. Thank you, Miss Audio, for the $5. Should I give half of that to Rizzy Ann?
Absolutely. Actually, you should give you the whole thing.
I wasn't finished with the question. I was going to say, since she's contributing and I don't want to feel like you're just contributing for nothing. So YouTube's going to take half of that, as they always do, take 50% of any money that is earned on this channel. And then we can split the $1.25.
I'll send you a PayPal request.
Got an ad. Yeah, this is what I don't like. So I did see people saying this on some of my streams. Number one, I don't agree with the idea that some of my videos aren't monetized for me, but YouTube is still playing ads on them. Number two, I don't agree with ads on live streams, but I don't think I have the ability to turn that on or off. And it seems to be selective for some of y'all. So YouTube don't like some of y'all. Why would you play an ad during a live stream?
Premium. YouTube Premium. If you have YouTube Premium, it does not play ads.
Yeah, but it's a live stream. How is there an ad during a live stream?
They gotta make money somehow.
I'm getting random ads in this is the whole point of the live stream, is that people are here and we're all engaged together. Are y'all like 30 seconds behind?
No, I think it just stops and it starts where we are right now. I don't know. I think they just missed chunks of it.
I don't like that. Well, Kay says I have control, so y'all can show me in the Discord after this. Welcome, TT. So that's what FD has to say. He says black men tend to get uncomfortable whenever there's a story about black men being abusive towards black women, and looks like they try and silence those stories. However, they don't have issues with black men being portrayed negatively in other media. So it seems like massage noir to me. He didn't say that explicitly, but it seems like they specifically hate it when it's black women doing it, but don't actually mind being portrayed negatively. So
Yes, I think especially when it is coming from a black woman, a lot of black men expect black women to just always recognize their oppression, recognize the fact that they experience racism, recognize the fact that, they are at the margins in society. And most black men will amplify and hype up black women that say this. But the minute a black woman defies, oh, thank you. The minute that a black woman defies this, the minute the black woman gets out of their bubble and starts to criticize them for the more intricate things, they have a meltdown like babies, and they just explode and cry. And yeah, shut up.
Miss Audio, thank you for the $20. That is now $10 because YouTube takes half of it. I'm always going to say that, by the way. I'm always going to make sure y'all know YouTube takes half of everything. They don't care. They don't care. But thank you. Remember also, if you guys are sending super chats, which you don't need to because my chat's very slow, so I can read all the comments, but you are able to write in the super chat a lot. So if you have something to say it. We will read it.
I'm reading the comments on my phone. So
so back into the discussion. Thank you, by the way, Miss Audio. I'll leave it up for a while because these people need to know you came to stun on them.
Beautiful.
So people are upset because they feel like it doesn't accurately depict the black community. I already spoke about why I feel like it does. Just intrinsically, instinctively, whatever the word is, I feel like it does. This doesn't seem far-fetched, and you already explained yours. But what I noticed specifically was when people say it's inaccurate based on the critiques I've seen, they only feel like it's inaccurate insofar as its portrayal of black men. I didn't see any black men saying it's unfair how you depicted that black woman being beaten by white men, a white man, and imprisoned unfairly and facing police brutality, or it's unfair that those white people were being racist towards them, or it's unfair how some of the black women in this movie were encouraging abuse, or it flat out Suge ignored the fact that Mr. was raping Silly. She was like, oh, it's not, he don't rape me, he make love to me, so you must be something different. In my opinion, she was extremely dismissive. And I mean the time period, like anyway, I'm not excusing it because of the time period, but like the women weren't portrayed good in this story. So it feels unusual when you have bad black women, bad white men, bad white women, and bad black men. There were also good women and men obviously portrayed in the story. I don't know if there were good white people portrayed in this story. I can't remember.
There wasn't. I mean, there was a lady that took Sophia in, but she wasn't really great. So.
Yeah. So literally, it feels like it seemed terrible in this movie, but the critiques only seem to be that black men were portrayed badly, and I'm wondering why. That makes me feel like people believe, oh, the portrayals of black women being bad were accurate. The portrayals of white men and white women being bad were accurate, but specifically the portrayals of black men being accurate are the ones that being bad or inaccurate. So I decided to I guess look up some statistics around black women. I don't want to misquote any statistics, and I understand the importance of giving a good interpretation of statistics. So we don't have to get all the way down into the nitty-gritty of these, and I want you guys to understand that I'm not a statistician, but these were just some quick things that I feel like would be easily available for people to Google if they were interested in seeing, hey, is this something that black women are actually experiencing, or is it kind of made up and they're just depicting black men poorly? So one critique is about the way that black men are portrayed, and the other critique is regardless of how they portray, is it accurate? And I'd like to see, is it accurate? And what I looked at is what came out recently. Well, not recently, but this came out in 2023. It was an investigation by CBS into Black women and crime statistics in Chicago. Well, not Black women, but it was an investigation into crime statistics in Chicago. And what they found was that Black women were disproportionately likely to experience this. Obviously, this is a current article, not one from the 1900s, which I'm finding extremely difficult to find information from that era. But I don't think it was better. I don't think it was better. So I'm just leaving this on the screen in case you guys want to look this up as I go through some of the what I thought were some of the most harrowing statistics. Black women make up only 16% of the city's population, but over-index in most categories of crime, accounting for 1 in 4 victimizations. And that ratio is more pronounced, about 1 in 3, when accounting only for reported crimes with race data and excluding crimes without clear victims, such as retail theft, FOID card violations, or narcotics arrest. And I think the clarification of that was like, if you push someone on the ground, we can say this is a white male, this is a Black woman, this is who did it and who experienced it. We can say there's a clear victim. But for retail theft, it's more like it's a corporation, or if you like have an expired driver's license but drive your car, which I think is a crime, there wouldn't be necessarily a individual who experiences this crime. It's more like a crime committed against a governmental entity or something. So I think that's what they mean when they said, when they narrowed it down to crimes where there are actual clear victims. Black women are about 1 in 3, even if they only make up 16% of the city's population. They looked into 1,600 sexual assault victims in 2022. Black women made up about 40% of the victims, according to the victim data. This is likely to be a conservative estimate, as Black women tend to underreport or not report when they experience something. Black women were the most victimized group in Chicago last year, accounting for 35% of assaults and 38% of batteries. Black women also accounted for 34% of 164 kidnappings and half of the 19 human trafficking victims. And half is really, really crazy to me. Really, really crazy to me. Hold up, it started playing a video. Excuse me, I need my bandwidth. But half is crazy. Half was really, really crazy to me. I know it was a small, human trafficking was only 19 people, but to make up half, that is crazy to me. That seems crazy to me.
Very jarring.
Black women were also over-indexed in nonviolent crimes that year, accounting for nearly a quarter of property thefts and 28% of motor vehicle thefts where race data is available. The data shows the challenges faced by women in high crime areas. The language they use also seems like they don't want to say who's doing it to Black women, but if you dive into the research, you guys can see that for yourself. Of the 455 victims assaulted on CTA buses, bus stops, trains, and stations last year, Black women were the hardest hit, accounting for 181 victims, or 38%. Black men accounted for 30%. Or 134 victims. Black women also accounted for more than half of the 27 sexual assault victims on the CTA. Again, Black women reaching up to 50% and over for certain crimes, which I think is really, really concerning. I think we talked about this when this came out, not me and you, but just on the channel. I'm not sure if it's still up, or maybe it was on Themus's channel, but the data was really, really shocking to look at. It feels like we already knew, but to see new data and it's still like this is concerning, to say the least. They looked at similar disparities existed for middle-aged and senior women. Despite Chicago's demographic makeup being roughly the same for Black, white, and Hispanic residents, there's a difference. I just wrote a note that I was looking into, is there like, do Black women just make up an extremely large portion of the population? But no, there's not a difference in population size that can account for the disparity, right? That was my initial thought. Maybe Chicago, when I think of Chicago, I think like a majority Black, but no, this research indicates that there are similar similar demographic makeup for white, Black, and Hispanic residents. Black women are the most stalked victims, according to the victim data. Last year, there were more than 200 Black women stalked, accounting for half of 473 reported victims. Hispanic women accounted for 17% of stalking victims, while white women accounted for 15%. Again, reaching upwards of half. And the last one was, this was a short passage. This normal has been the reality of Chicago's crime for years. Homicide, shootings, and robberies garner the bulk of the attention to crime. In 2022, there were more than 3,500 people shot, 638 of them fatally. For this one, Black men accounted for 35% of the city's shootings, and Black women accounted for 16%. But for almost every other crime category, Black women accounted for the most victimizations, an issue that's not often at the forefront. So it appears that Black men do lead as far as victimization for this specific type of crime. I assume the research around this would point to specifically poor Black men's likelihood to engage in like gang violence or the drug market or whatever activities that are likely to have higher likelihoods of gun violence, right? However, in nearly everything else, Black women are leading as far as victimization amongst all races and amongst both genders. So that's the reality today. Obviously this isn't proof of what's happened in the 1900s, but I don't feel like this is a new phenomenon, to say the least. But I will do more research around the 1900s, specifically 1910 to 1940, when this movie is supposed to take place, because I believe if I looked into the research there, it would probably be similar. Black women would probably be disproportionate victims of crime compared to white women, white men, Black men. So
I do know of a very popular case in the 40s. So a little, well, it's around this time actually of the movie, but it was, I wouldn't say it got better, but I feel like the crimes that Black women experienced were very, very underreported, and they were not even considered relevant. Like they were not even, no one would bat an eye when it happens, because slavery wasn't too long. Like, I mean, now it is, but at that time, they were still coming out of slavery, was still entering the civil rights movement era. So it was in that period where Black people were not even really considered humans. And there was a case of, her name is Reese Taylor. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. Maybe I have in a different episode. I don't know. But her name is Reese Taylor. She was, trigger warning, gang raped by 6 white men. And she has documentation of this. There's proof of this. I don't know if there was witnesses, but basically it was well known that this happened. Very well documented. And she took it to court and it was dismissed. So it was dismissed, and she was basically blamed for what happened. So and this event actually is one of the early events that caused the civil rights movement to take place, because surprisingly, Black men were actually supporting her, at least from what we know. Perhaps not, but from what we know, Black people in general wanted Reese Taylor to get justice. Because again, but I think it's honestly because it was perpetrated by white people. So maybe they were more focused on the white supremacist part of it. I say this to say that atrocious crimes took place and no one did anything. So I don't think much has changed. I think maybe more people report now, but in terms of the frequency, I don't think that anything has really changed.
What was you said Reese Taylor?
Yes, her name was Reese Taylor. And she actually she didn't even really get a spotlight, because when the civil rights movement happened around 10 to 20 years after her case, she wasn't really, they didn't really talk about her again. And that's a lot of critics talk about how she was kind of brushed on the rug. She didn't really get any help. Black men were dismissive of her, and she didn't really have much of a legacy, so no one really knows about the story. I only found out about it after taking a class, but prior to it, I've never heard about it. And um, even though the magnitude of what happened to her was quite atrocious, but yeah, no one really talked about it. No one really acknowledged her after this happened.
I've read about Reese Taylor before, but I haven't. I was actually surprised because I'm pretty sure I read about her in, I think it was 2017 or 18 when she passed away.
Right.
And
Yeah. She lived a long life.
yes, thankfully. But yeah, the idea that in this time period, Black men would get behind a Black woman who's being victimized by white men, I don't think that's very far-fetched. It seems specifically when they are victimized by Black men that it's not only an unwillingness to do anything about it publicly, but even privately sweeping it under the rug.
Absolutely.
So that doesn't sound far-fetched. Maybe we can look at that case at a different live stream in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that data seems damning. And although it doesn't reference who's committing the crime, when you look into it, the majority of these crimes towards Black women are committed by Black men. Obviously, any group of people tend to commit crime intra-racially within the same race, but the rates amongst Black men and women are extremely high in a way that other communities aren't. So there are disparities, even considering the fact that most people do intraracial violence. So there's also the 1 every 5.5 hours statistic that we should all be very familiar with. And someone did mention earlier in the chat, something like 60% of Black girls prior to adulthood, she said, go into adulthood having experienced some form of sexual violence. So no, it doesn't seem like something that Black women just made up to depict Black men as evil. And it doesn't seem like an agenda by white people, because the adaptation of the movie seems very faithful to the book, which Alice Walker says she based on her life and on things that she experienced in person. So no, again, that's pretty much the end of my critique of the movie and of the critiques that I've seen for the movie. It feels like the critiques are Black women be quiet. This isn't actually happening. And if it is, stop talking about it because it's making us look bad. So that's all I have to say. I did want to look at Boyce Watkins made a short. It's under a minute long. So I did want to look at that if you had anything you want to add before that.
No.
My voice starts getting raspy when I don't take enough sips.
You finished the tea, didn't you?
Yeah. I just feel like the critique of this movie sound like a smoker.
Who got you that mug?
Huh?
Who got you the mug?
Who got me the mug?
Yeah.
You did. Isn't it beautiful?
I know. Aww.
All right, now no vanity. Y'all know I have the evil eye. I'm not about to have y'all be jealous of me and people talk about rituals going around.
God forbid.
All right, so let's look at Boyce Watkins and what he had to say. Boyce Watkins, don't know who he is. Do know that he's apparently prominent in the Black community. So, he has a Wikipedia. There you go. So something's going on there. And he does have quite a large following on YouTube as well. And his video came up when I was looking up critiques for the movie. Hello, Cultural. Welcome. Be sure to like the video on your way in and subscribe if you're not already. Okay.
So I saw the color purple and I'm walking out to the car and I will say this. It was a well done movie. It was the singing choreography was excellent. Acting was good.
This is about the current Color Purple, by the way, but I found that the critiques between the two movies were pretty much the same.
if that's your type of movie. I was not in the target demographic of that movie because I'm a straight black male, and I don't think that men were represented very well. And obviously, I have an issue with the idea of black women and white men getting together and making movies that make black men look terrible. I'm not a fan of that. However, this movie does not document the relationship between black men and black women. It documents the relationship between feminists and lesbians and abusive men. So if that's your thing, then this movie's for you. If it's not your thing, it's all good. But it was a good musical. I didn't have anything against it. See you later.
What say you? I heard you saying some stuff.
I have so much to say. I feel, first of all, let's talk about one thing. Let's get one thing straight. Feminism is not a white thing. It's not a black woman thing. It's not it's feminism is a formal study that encompasses and acknowledges every demographic. So for him to just ostracize feminists and be like, well, if you're a feminist and if that's your thing, no, it's for everyone. Okay. A. B. I think the fact that he's bringing sexuality into it when what is he referencing at this? Like, can someone actually explain? Like, what gay is he saying? Are you, if you're
he saw gay people kissing and he was like,
so you're extrapolating and saying,
this movie isn't for.
So you're extrapolating and you're saying the one kissing scene between two women, and you're saying, well, if it's all the men are also gay, like, is that what he's saying?
When I described what I felt earlier about this movie, and I was like walking not out of the theater but away from my couch, like, so feeling very heavy in understanding a different perspective of what has been going on in the black community. The critique that, why do you think he says this movie wasn't for straight black men? What is it about?
I don't understand that, because someone in the comments is saying, well, he said the men ain't representative. No, he's saying that if you're a straight black man, the movie is not for you. But what does that mean? Because it is straight black men who are terrorizing black women.
No, this doesn't document the relationship between black men and women. It documents feminists kissing. I think it documents both.
Oh, I guess only feminists experience oppression from black men. I guess so, right? I guess like the others who don't are like, they're just chilling, like they're fine. Like, it doesn't apply to all of. It's a specific demographic, really.
Let me see what the comments had to say. Has anyone watched The Color Purple in its original version? I'm surprised to see so many people shocked or disappointed. Hold up. By the relationship between the characters. The movie has always been about the tragic and triumphant journey of two sisters overcoming heartache, abuse, and separation from each other. Boyce, I thought this was like a thought leader in the black community. I don't know him or his content, but I was certain people consider Boyce Watkins like a thought leader. How did he not know this movie is about? This movie was banned by the NAACP.
It was.
Of
course it was. Because the leaders of the NAACP were black men.
Why do you think they wanted to? I guess, why did they ban the movie?
Yes, because it was mostly black men and black men. Listen, I'm gonna tell you one thing, and we talked about this privately, but black men do not want to remove victimhood from their identity. The minute that victimhood is stripped away from black men, so that if the tables turn on them, they have a problem with that, because they enjoy being victims in any circumstance, whether it's in interracial relationships, whether it's within their dynamics with black men, whether it's in society. They want to remain victims. And the minute that they are told, hey, you are the ones victimizing us, they don't like that, because I'm the victim. No, you're not. You can also be victimized too.
But my question is, I know that. And I agree with that fully. And I've even talked about that in a different form in white women who like to forget that they benefit from white privilege and pretend we're all, I don't see color, we all need to stick together. I'm specifically talking about the black girl follow trend and how white women co-opted it and made black women seem bad for standing in solidarity with each other and saying you should open up the black girl follow trend. It should just be the girl follow trend. So I believe white women are doing exactly what you're talking about black men doing, which is ignoring the part of them that has privilege and wanting to engage in victimization, but doing so in a way that requires black women to ignore an additional discrimination that they experience from the hands of white women in that case, or black men in this case. I guess my question is why?
Why are black men?
Why, I guess, why do people, black men in this case, but specifically people with intersex, ignore the part of them that has privilege? Why do they want to, why can't they step away from victimization to understand the type of oppression?
Well, we're trying to understand why are they attached to victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that they're attached to victimhood, I guess that's a good question. I don't know why. I think it is easier to be a victim than it is to acknowledge your wrongdoings. Like, it's easy to be a victim. It's easy to say, well, these are the ways that I'm oppressed. It's easy to say, well, these are my experiences. But it's difficult to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing to people who are maybe not as privileged as me? And even as a black woman, yes, I'm victimized in many ways by society. But for example, I have education. There are black women who don't. I need to acknowledge that in that situation, I might have privileges that they don't have. The fact that I have access to education that they don't have. The fact that I live in the West, a lot of black women and other racialized women who live in third world countries do not have those privileges. But a lot of people are not able to do that. They focus and hyperfixate and hyperbolize their own victimhood because it makes them comfortable, because the result of that victimhood is it's easy for them to be coddled. It's easy for them to get a tap on the shoulder, to get a pat on the head. It's easy for them to get coddled, and that's it. But there's no moving forward. The way that we can change and dismantle these problems societally is by having the ability to recognize that we are both victims, but we can also be the ones who are doing the victimizing. How are we victimizing other people? What privileges do we have in society? Regardless of how disenfranchised and marginalized we are, in what ways, whether it's societally, whether like socioeconomically, politically, whatever ways that we are privileged, whether it's black women, black men, and other and beyond, we need to be able to understand that we can both be victims, and in the same breath, we are able to victimize other people. And what extent we're able to victimize other people is going to vary. For example, a black woman cannot victimize other people to the same extent that a black man can, because the distinction there, of course, is gender. And gender mobilizes a man, right? A man has more mobility in society than a black woman ever will. So, but again, I think the issue is black men don't want to take this accountability. They're so comfortable. They just love being coddled. They love it. They thrive off of it. It pisses me off so much, but they thrive. They love it. They relish in it. And really, until we remove this comfort of enjoying being a victim, and until we step out of that, they will never take accountability. So we need to stop victimizing them in every context.
So as far as the reasoning, you believe it says, obviously it's probably not a overt reason that they do it generally, but
not an overt reason, but I think it's very implicit and insidious.
You think it's kind of a desire for comfort and discomfort at addressing, at looking in the mirror, basically.
It makes them uncomfortable because why would a black man address, well, I have the capacity to frighten someone. My father or my uncle or my brother or whoever or my coworker or my granddaddy or whoever has done something, has raped someone, has hurt someone, has beat on somebody, and that if they took accountability for that, they would have to hold that accountability up to every single man in their life. Because it is too often that Black men will be in the room with a rapist, or with someone who molests people, or with someone who stalks people, and they will be quiet, and they will laugh and kiki with them, and go out with them, and go to concerts with them. They will never turn the dial and understand that taking accountability, they know that taking accountability means that they also have to hold the other people in their lives accountable, even if they're not doing the things that we see in this movie. They're going to have to see it in other people, and that's why they have a fucking meltdown.
Outside of hiding their friend or family, you say, or just close people around them behavior as well as their own, I've seen people openly endorse sometimes when other men are behaving badly. So I don't disagree with you, by the way. I don't disagree with you at all. I've literally seen men. There's this post that goes viral like every couple of months, and it's always a woman who posted, and it's the same screenshot of this Twitter post that says something like, guys, 49 no's and a yes, a defeated yes is not a yes. If you had a girl say no 49 times and she finally caved and said yes, that wasn't sex, that was rape.
Mm-hmm.
And like clockwork, it's always men in the comments, man, you should have just told him no, you could have left. You had it always, like, it feels like they openly endorse some, what I would say is extremely problematic behavior,
right,
being gentle with my language, and at the worst endorsing rape. So
of course they do.
No, I don't disagree with you at all.
A lot of men do, unfortunately. And right, like you said, it's even more implicit than that. Like, even if they're not protecting their family members, like you said, it's probably things that they engage in. And in my experience, I will anecdotal, but I will tell you my experience. A lot of the Black men that I've dealt with have been very coercive, even if they haven't outright forced themselves on me. A no is never a no to them. A no is not enough for them to step back. And they feel comfortable doing this with Black women because they know we will fold. Until, like, a lot of Black women who are still under this mentality that, you know, I have to be with a Black man, like, I can't get out of the community, I'm loyal to Black men, and, you know, the ones who love Black men and will never criticize them, they will fall into, not all, but they will unfortunately fall into this coercion. And in my experience, I've also fallen into this coercion, where no is not no. No is not no. No is not enough. If you say no, well, how about a little bit? 5 minutes, 2 minutes, just touch it. Just rub it. Please. I had a nigga say, please, please, please. Nigga. Anyway, let me not get emotional up here. But all I'm saying is, unfortunately, Black men don't understand consent. And because this movie addresses consent in different multifaceted ways, they will never acknowledge that they themselves don't even have an understanding of consent, nor do they want to understand, because that's how they navigate the world. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was not an aside because it was related to the topic, but just to reiterate what you're saying regarding people hiding behavior, and having discomfort with addressing certain behavior because it would mean they would have to call out themselves or their friends. So yeah, agreed, 100%. Welcome, Panda Dex. I haven't seen you in a while. I also saw LB in the chat. So yep, there's LB. So the sleeper agents are coming out tonight. Be sure to like the video, guys, if you haven't already. We're going to quickly go through the rest of Boyce Watkins' comments because they were eating him up. And I was here for it. And then we can have a quick after show. And I guess if anybody wanted to come up, I wasn't sure if anybody wanted to talk today, but if you're open to it, Raz, I can open up the panel. And if not, then
I don't mind.
Yeah. So
whoever wants to come up, I don't mind.
So
join the conversation.
The first comment said, "Did you read it?" Basically, did you watch it? And the second comment says, "Has anyone ever read The Color Purple? Reading is fundamental, y'all." So again, just shocked that this man has no idea what the movie is that he was going to watch was, or the historical significance of it, which I'm surprised by because again, I thought he was a thought leader. I could be wrong, but the way his channel looked, it looked like people think he's a thought leader. So that's concerning to me. Let's see. Here's one of the men. He said, "I disagree. The men were represented as the story as it was written by Alice Walker. There was a plethora of men with varying personalities, and not all were cruel to their women. Even Mr. learned from his mistakes and tried to right them. Silly, in turn, forgave him, and they began a new relationship dynamic. I thought it. We have to make peace with our history in the Black story. We learned it from our oppression and projected it into our family." So this man like insinuates that maybe white supremacy taught this to us, but we perpetuated it, or whatever his belief is. But he's like, we shouldn't be rejecting this. We should be acknowledging it. We should make peace with it. And I mean, at the very least, believe Black women when they tell you what's happening to them. And yeah, even Mister's like the most. Well, her dad is evil too, but like Mister's like one of the most evil characters in this story, if not the most evil character, in my opinion. And this man had a redemption arc. This rapist abuser had a redemption arc at the end.
He did. He
This
definitely.
man, I don't even like that they gave him a relationship with Suge. He should have had nothing. This man should have lost everything, died with leprosy. I don't know.
I wanted to see him dead so bad. It's okay.
But no, the men in this movie, in my opinion, the men in this movie are complex.
They are.
He just,
I agree.
but then there's like Harpo was one that was complex for me because in the beginning of the movie, it was making it seem like, in my opinion, he's being abused by his father and he's like being a raggedy child to this woman who's taking care of him. Whatever, kids are how they are. But then he grows up, and I was surprised to find that he is dating a fat, black, loud woman. Strong Black woman. Like I was very surprised. She's opinionated.
That he loved.
That he loved.
Yeah.
Yes, like it was in my mind. Again, this movie is new to me. This is the first time I've watched it, y'all. I've never seen it before. In my mind, they were setting him up to be like to detract from his father. So like he seemed like more of a complex character than just, oh, they portrayed Black men as evil demon. Like, no, this man seemed like a three-dimensional character. And even his abuse, which I believe he would have done anyway, based on research I've done around children of abusers and how they tend to repeat that if they're the man or endure it if they're the woman. But Silly, the girl character, is influencing him to do that. So they're like men character in this movie that I was rooting for, and they didn't go down the path I wanted them to. There was another man character who was misogynistic, but compared to everyone else in this story, the man who was throwing eggs with Mr. He seemed misogynistic based on that conversation he had with Mr. Outside of that, he seemed like he was good to Suge. Maybe I missed something, but he seemed like a fairly good character. So yeah, I think there were multifaceted variations of Black men in this story, not just like big Black abuser. And there are times when they like even give these men redemption arcs that I don't agree with. So
question. We haven't talked about colorism and pretty privileged. But
Oop.
I
Okay.
feel like that is not related fully.
You know me, red dimes or whatever Simone Bow's husband said. So
Nah, I mean that, but I find all I'll say about the colorism bit is that for the critics of this movie to think that it's just about talking about, you know, how Black women or Black men are so terrible, etc. When really, again, like you said multiple times, the Black women are not perfect, and a lot of the time the Black women in the movie perpetuated colorism, and texturism and featureism. And I mean society as a whole, but specifically the women did. And even there was a scene where Shook saw Celia was like, "You ugly," and that really shocked me. So there's even a hierarchy between the women, and I don't think that Alice Walker is shying away, or the writers or the director of the movie, they're not shying away from addressing that. But again, we're just gonna reduce it down to hating black men. I think there's a lot more to the movie than just that.
Okay. We do have someone in the back. So last few comments and then we can short after show.
Oh, we're looking at the comments. Okay.
Let's see. Not making black men look bad. It's making abusive men look bad. If you are not an abusive man, then this shouldn't bother you. I am concerned with men who are bothered at the patrol. I'm wondering why. Well, we already talked about it, so I'm not wondering so much anymore. But I was wondering why men come out of this movie and like tend to. It feels like sympathize with the abusers and be like, "Oh, this movie ain't for me because they portrayed this man bad." Like, it feels unusual. And as FD even pointed out, they don't tend to have a problem when black men make movies depicting black men as bad. Like Django got a whole coon in the movie. Anyway. And you ain't seeing outrage. So yeah, that's a lot of the comments are just like, why did you think this was going to be different from the book in the old movie, in the old music? What are you? Anywho.
He just sounds a little dense. It's okay. Next time he'll understand.
Last comment I'll read is, black men need to tell their own stories if you do not like us telling our truth, as some of us have lived. I don't think you should tell stories. I think you should tell truth. But we're going to get into the after show, and then it'll be quick and brief.
You really want to catch fucking...
Oops. You were saying something?
Said yay.
No, Yella. Steven wasn't the hero in Django, but you don't see black men upset that there was a black villain in a movie that was written by, isn't it Quentin Tarantino? And I'm pretty sure that man is like, I don't know if he's racist. I don't know enough about him, but I will say he oversteps his boundaries. He oversteps the hell out of his boundaries based on his behavior, not his movie making, which also it seems unusual for him to cast himself flagrantly saying the N-word a lot. I don't know, but his behavior seems unusual to me. So I was, yeah. I would expect Django would be like a perfect comparison because it's fictional. There's an evil black character, and they even make like a white savior character. I would feel like you would be more upset at something like that than The Color Purple. But maybe I need to rewatch Django. Indica, welcome. Roseanne, I also spared you from my other outro. You just don't know it. I don't think you've seen it yet.
Hello.
But welcome, Indica.
Hey.
You were saying you would agree with Boyce Watkins. This movie wasn't for you, and you think it's a bad portrayal of black men, and you kind of wanted to come up and advocate for them.
No, that is not my place.
Okay. I thought I read in the comments you were saying this movie is a bad depiction of black men and we need to boycott it.
No.
Okay.
Hiding.
I could have sworn I saw that. No, I'm just playing. What say you though? What say you?
First, I'm just enjoying this so much. Like, this has been a great conversation. Like,
thank you. I think Rizzy Ann adds a more academic lens that I don't have the capacity for. So
yes. I mean, like, and because I don't know if I mentioned that I deal with children's and things, and like, yeah, it starts so early and so soon, and like just connection, like when you saying like they just want to play the victim and be victimized and enjoy that and live in it,
Right.
It is so true. I was like, oh my gosh, I see it every day.
Very much.
Yeah. No, that movie though, like, especially because like I think I said before, like I got to see it as a girl. I got to hear the men in my family talk about that movie in the 80s, and then to watch it now as an adult and see the men just regurgitate what their daddies used to say is pretty interesting, because this movie really shows the consequences of being an abusive jerk of a man. Right. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose that woman that you've been beating on. You're going to lose, because at the end of the movie, he's like, there's no life in this house. There's no spark. There's no children. There's no laughter. There's no joy. Because at the end of the day, that movie showed that women make a house a home.
Right.
Whether it's a cardboard box or a mansion, and he didn't realize what she actually gave to his life until she was gone. And she ain't never coming back. And that movie showed exactly what happens when a woman like literally finally leaves you. And like when Prince Petty, when you talked about like that thing about choice, women's choice, like she said, I didn't even choose your hand in marriage. Like I didn't get to choose none of this, you know. And when she finally had a choice, and that's also when women have a choice, they don't choose men who treat them like crap. Like that movie showed all of that. Yeah, I really like, yeah, this has been such a great conversation about it because a lot of people are not diving into the other nuances of the movie. Like we're able to quote it because it relates to our life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sad that the measured I hope this was a measured critique had to come from this channel. I feel like the goofiest of channels. I was shocked when I watched Farrakhan review this, and even his critique seemed like they're trying to divide the black family or something that seemed extremely reductive. From Farrakhan is like Farrakhan. This man is a whole superhero to the Negro community. A whole superhero.
Who that?
So, huh?
Who is that?
You don't know Farrakhan?
No.
Okay, don't nobody know him. Don't worry about it.
He-
He's nobody. I'm just playing. He's
He's the Hydrox of the movement after Malcolm X was assassinated. You know, like Oreo. So Malcolm X would be the Oreo cookie. He'd be the Hydrox cookie.
I was trying to figure out how to describe him. I think that's good.
That's a good. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who Dr. Umar wishes. Anyway, I'm sorry. I apologize. Actually, that was very rude, and there was no reason for that. But
So
yeah,
Umar
I'm surprised that even he, like, again, the pro-black and the NAACP and like everything that you would think is like pro-black people seem to be extremely reductive in their critique of this movie. So it's upsetting that it had to come from a goofy ad channel like this. But thankfully Raz was here to do what I couldn't, and here's Indica to come follow up with the closer, giving us what needed to be gave. Thank you. And thank you for watching and for appreciating.
Oh yeah, this has been such a great conversation.
Not a pretty red dime with the. So y'all are seeing ads on live streams. I actually don't like that. I don't know what to do about that. But hey, hey seven in the hey you seven her 3 in the comments says she gonna help me out in the Discord. So we'll figure that out. I would turn YouTube off. Why are you playing ads during a live? That don't make sense to me.
That's very rude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the end of my critique. Raz, if you have anything to add, you can now.
No, do you have any questions for me?
How does my hair look today?
Do you have any questions for me?
All right. No, that's all. Thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Oh, by the way, obligatory, I do think black men can be victims. I don't know why I get this odd comment sometimes. I do think black men can be victims. I literally have to braid my hair because the white people at work don't like me with my nappy hair out. Napperty hair out. I don't call it nappy. I don't think it's nappy, but they have different.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, I don't think black men can never be victims ever. But like in conversations where we're talking about oppression that black women are facing, this isn't the conversation where you're the victim. This is the conversation where oftentimes you are the oppressor, and you can step out of your victimization for just a few minutes to acknowledge that and to hopefully sympathize with that and address that and treat it as a legitimate issue instead of dismissing it to say we all need to stick together or something. I saw comments talk about we need to stick the black family together. Why are we talking about black women, this and that? We need the black family unit again.
Black family can only exist with black women though. So, I mean,
it seemed like they saying be silent about it. Shut up. We're not going to stop. So shut up.
The black family will literally cease to exist if you don't mitigate.
Not if you shut up and endure. No, I think they know exactly what they're saying, and if they don't, they dumb. So,
just last comments. I also want to preface that it is the job of black feminist scholars and feminists to I said feminist too many times, but anyways, it's the work of scholars to acknowledge that we do uh, experience victimhood and that black men also experience victimhood in different contexts. So I don't want to dismiss, but I don't think that conversation is productive in this one. So we can separate conversations. Again, two things can exist at once. I just don't think they should center themselves when they're not the person who should be
Okay.
coddled. Okay.
Thank you. Oh,
You're
did you want to plug? Are you plugging yourself today?
You can plug myself. I mean, you can plug my Instagram if you want.
Well, here's Raz's
You
Instagram.
type that so fast.
Huh?
You type that too fast.
Oh, it's up here. I was like, I would feel bad actually if you contributed and then just left.
For the free.
Yeah, I would feel bad. I feel like my audience would drag me. You used a black woman and you didn't. Anyway, Raz's Instagram is on the screen if you guys would like to go follow her there.
And to see what I look like.
Huh?
And to see what I look like.
Yeah, I feel like they're curious. So
I'm sure they are.
y'all can go follow her there if y'all are interested in some Raz, some Rizzy ass. Anyway, thank you for joining. I guess I'll end by saying, never let a man put someone you don't know in your stomach. Y'all stay safe out here, ladies. Be sure to like the video if you haven't already, and subscribe if you like the content and want to see more. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.